In contrast to the way President Putin dodges media appearances at the moment, President Zelensky thrives on them. Yesterday he was on French television explaining that the operation to retake Crimea had already begun in people's hearts, in people's minds, that there was a realistic thought about retaking the bottom of the Ukraine with the great port of Sevastopol, retaking that which had been taken over in 2014 by Putin, and together with the building of his bridge which annexed Crimea to the Russian mainland. And there's that, and the confirmation that all of Kyiv now has heat. President Zelensky leads a defiance against a tyrannous regime that has invaded its neighbouring state and that has broken international conventions and international agreements, particularly to provide protection to Ukraine in return for Ukraine surrendering its nuclear weapons when Russia achieved independence from communism. It's a foul, foul story, and Mr. Putin comes across very badly, whatever light you look at it. And the only people who are saluting Putin are those who are bamboozled by the mountainous propaganda effort which is Russian media, which is the newspapers, which is the magazines, which is the books, which is the television particularly, the broadcasting, the distortion of truth. If people don't say what the television station wants to hear, they dub a different version into their mouths. I know this from experience. It was done to me. And it was done to me over something quite trivial. I think in my case, I was being asked about David Cameron and Johnson. And what I said was not what they wanted to hear, so they just put different words into my mouth. And they did the same to Professor John Curtis. He's the man who is wheeled out to tell you about elections. He's a psephologist from Strathclyde University, I think. Mr. Putin is simply wrong. Mr. Medvedev, with his squeaky threats of nuclear annihilation, is wrong. Both of them are weak and slight individuals who are surrounded by a cadre of very, very aggressive hawks. And we simply have to recognize that their time will come. And it would be great if they were to reform, if they were to change their minds, if they were to recognize that they were wrong. I don't think that's going to happen. They're also going to have to be held to account for what they've done. But, I live in hope. We must all live in hope. And Mr. Zelensky is the most positive person to come out of this conflict. Mr. Zelensky is wearing the mantle of Churchill. He is the wartime leader with the whiff of theatricality which is necessary to kindle defiance, to kindle unity in a nation. And that is something that Putin, with all his propaganda, with all his effort, cannot do, so Putin will fail. Because in the end, the country is not behind him and cannot be behind him. Statistics and polls and what is said in the media is not the heart of Russia.